From the Great Northwoods to the Rockbound Coast and streaming live in HD worldwide at foxbangor.com. More people choose Good Morning Maine.
Hello everyone, today on Good Morning Maine, the war on Iran is already impacting gas prices here at home. We'll hear from an expert on what's to come.
Plus, a bill that would redefine how public institutions work with law enforcement has advanced in the legislature.
And as elections inch closer, more candidates are turning in their signatures to get their name on the ballot. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Maine. I'm Janessa Bishop.
And I'm Craig Colson. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday morning. We'll have those stories and more coming up. First, a little breaking news to tell you about. There was a bad fire this morning at a store in Sebec. Apparently, the Sebec Country Store has been destroyed by fire. We've been watching it unfold as the morning went along, and they were out there trying to save it. Eventually, they had to make a defensive attack. That's basically when they surround the fire from the outside. They're not sending anybody in because it's too dangerous. And it sounds like it has destroyed the fire, destroyed the business. We'll certainly have more on that later on. It was impacting local schools as well, getting kids to and from schools. But it sounds like the roadway is now reopened there.
Yeah, we'll take a first look at our forecast with meteorologist Devin Biggs.
And thank you very much, Craig and Janessa. Happy Wednesday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Stone Artisans. For fast, beautiful countertops, trust Stone Artisans, your main stone supplier. 2493040. Alrighty, here we go. Some snow reports in this morning from Bangor and farther off towards the south and west. Not a whole lot near the Bangor area, just 1.5 inches so far, while further off towards the south and west, around 3.5 inches, at least so far that we've received. But meanwhile, as we do zoom things out, there's all the snow that we've gotten, and now it has since wrapped up. So overall for today, we'll get the clouds out of here with a good amount of sunshine. Meanwhile, the rest of the Northeast is looking rather good. So overall, we will be looking nice as we do move forward, and the clouds will be breaking up today with a lot of sunshine. You may still see some clouds at times. We do have a weak cold front that will be passing through for your Thursday with a slight chance for snow, and that's about it there for your Thursday. Some gusty winds at times up to around 15, maybe 20 miles per hour, but in general, the wind will not be much of a problem moving forward. The hourly forecast, okay, some clouds out there today with temperatures warming up into the 40s. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig and Janessa.
Thank you, Devin. We'll have more later on. Well, meanwhile, more missiles and drones raining down across the Middle East today as the war on Iran enters day 5. We now know the names and faces of some of the American troops killed in Kuwait, all from an Army Reserve unit in Iowa. And it comes as U.S. forces and allies in the region remain on high alert. ABC's Marcus Moore has the latest.
Overnight, a wave of new attacks in the Middle East as U.S. Central Command reveals more than 50,000 U.S. troops are now in the region, up from 35,000 previously reported. And now we're seeing the faces of some of the first American casualties of this war in Iran. Captain Cody Cork, Sergeant First Class Nicola Moore, Sergeant First Class Noah Tegens, and Sergeant Declan Cody, all from an Army Reserve unit in Des Moines, Iowa. They were among 6 Americans killed after an Iranian drone hit a tactical operations center in Kuwait. The U.S. commander in the Middle East now sharing in-depth details about the ongoing U.S. operations.
Many of you may remember the shock and awe strikes of 2003. The first 24 hours of this operation were nearly double the scale. We've already struck nearly 2,000 targets with more than 2,000 munitions.
Iran now escalating attacks on American interests in the region. An Iranian drone slamming into the U.S. consulate in Dubai. The U.S. Embassy in Jordan also targeted. An Iranian missile hitting the largest U.S. base in the Middle East in Qatar. No injuries reported. Now questions are being raised about the amount of artillery on both sides of the conflict. Military officials say it takes 2 or 3 interceptors to shoot down one ballistic missile. And experts predict Iran has a stockpile of more than 2,000. That's fueling concern that Iran's supply of cheap drones could exhaust the multi-million-dollar interceptor systems of the U.S. and its allies.
Multiple reports, including from the Wall Street Journal, say the Trump administration is now considering whether to support groups inside Iran who are willing to take up arms and topple the regime. Those groups could potentially include the Iranian Kurds. Marcus Moore, ABC News, Doha.
Here at home, there's no doubt the situation in Iran is already impacting gas prices. Gas Buddy's head of petroleum analysis, Patrick DeHaan, says there are a number of OPEC members in the Middle East and a finite number of ways to get the oil to customers. He says all the countries rely on the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran has already made threats and attacked one ship. According to DeHaan, Iran has already undermined the stability of that area.
A real and credible threat that has to be taken seriously, which is why, in essence, now hundreds of ships have dropped anchor in the Persian Gulf, awaiting what the next move may look like. And the ripple effect has been dramatic on the price of oil, which has jumped by over $10 a barrel over the weekend.
According to AAA, the average price for a gallon of gas in Maine is now $3.09. DeHaan says there is no crystal ball to see what will happen in the future, but he doesn't expect the price increases will be record-setting. But he says he believes the prices will go up another 15 to 30 cents a gallon over the next week or two.
Well, meanwhile, an Aroostook County man is challenging his murder conviction. 41-year-old Jamie Schnackenberg of Monticello is currently serving a 55-year sentence after being convicted of killing Kimberly Hardy back in 2023. Hardy was shot twice in the back of the head. During his trial, Schnackenberg claimed Hardy was killed in self-defense. In oral arguments before the Maine Supreme Court yesterday, the lawyer said the trial court made a legal error by excluding the victim's toxicology results, and also challenged the decision to allow pictures that showed her head injuries.
The evidence at trial compelled the conclusion that Jamie Schnackenberg committed the ultimate act of domestic violence by shooting Kim Hardy, his long-term live-in girlfriend, twice in the back of the head because she was leaving him and taking the cat, and then concealing his crime in his futile attempt to clean her blood from the kitchen, wrapping her lifeless body in layers of tarp and garbage bags held together with duct tape prior to dumping it off on a remote logging road.
The court will make its decision on the appeal at a later date.
Meanwhile, Maine drug enforcement agents arrested 3 people following an investigation into suspected drug trafficking at a Baileyville motel. According to the Maine Drug Enforcement Agency, agents had observed what they say was activity consistent with drug trafficking from one of the rooms at that motel. They secured and executed a search warrant for the room. During the search, agents seized approximately 64 grams of methamphetamine, along with other evidence indicative of drug trafficking. MDEA says there were also traffic stops and a search of the separate residence related to the alleged activity at the motel, and additional evidence was found at that separate residence. 36-year-old Catherine Smith of Baileyville was arrested and now faces a drug trafficking charge. 37-year-old Bruce Bailey, also of Baileyville, was arrested and is also facing drug-related charges. And finally, 40-year-old Dan Makopian of New Jersey was arrested and now faces a drug trafficking charge as well.
Residents of Stonington voted this week to end a contract with the Hancock County Sheriff's Department. Citing the rising costs, the residents voted against spending $89,000 for coverage. According to the Bangor Daily News, the Sheriff's Office will still respond to emergencies, but they won't have deputies carrying out patrols 3 times a week.
A controversial bill that would redefine the way public institutions work with immigration and customs enforcement has advanced in the legislature. Our Callie Warren shares more about LD 2106.
I have 6 members voting in the affirmative, 5 members voting in the negative, 3 members are absent, and that is the vote of the committee.
That close vote was for LD 2106, which faced several amendments before passing the Legislative Judiciary Committee last week. The contentious legislation would, if passed and as amended, create language limiting the turnover of non-public documents to law enforcement officers, including immigration and customs enforcement. In short, it would prevent a public institution from delivering private records to authorities without a warrant. Sponsor Ellie Sato released a statement saying in part, quote, "While ICE maintains a presence in Maine, this legislation will help reduce violence in our schools, libraries, and hospitals, and strengthen our state's commitment to upholding the rights of Maine people," end quote. These public facilities are being defined as state-run institutions. That includes public libraries, public schools, and state-owned hospitals. Private facilities can opt in, but are not mandated. While Sato says the bill was inspired by concern over ICE agents in Maine, the legislation applies to all law enforcement officials, including state and municipal police and school resource officers. Some in the legislature say the bill goes too far, including Representative Jennifer Poirier of Skowhegan, who said in a statement, quote, "This bill is basically the state trying to dictate how the federal government can enforce laws that were established to protect citizens. It is a knee-jerk reaction to manufactured chaos, impeding the ability of law enforcement agencies like ICE and Border Patrol to perform their jobs does nothing to keep us safe," end quote. Others worry the bill doesn't go far enough.
In some ways, isn't it a false sense of security because there's no authority to keep ICE out, and there's no repercussions for ICE anywhere in this bill.
The bill faces further votes in the House and Senate. Callie Warren reporting for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
As we inch closer to the upcoming elections, more candidates are turning in the necessary signatures to get their names on the ballot. Republican candidate David Jones has announced he has gathered enough signatures for Maine's gubernatorial race. He was joined by supporters at the State House yesterday before turning in his signatures to the Secretary of State's office. Jones emphasized that he is a seasoned businessman and real estate broker who is running for governor with a mission to raise the standard of living for Mainers and prioritize auditing Maine's finances.
I'm not a guy who says he's going to do something and not do it. If I make a commitment to you and I say yes, you can bet your bottom dollar it means yes. And I will do everything I can to work as hard and as smart as you would ever want a governor to do.
A candidate in Maine's highly contested 2nd congressional district race has also achieved this milestone. Democratic candidate Matt Dunlap officially filed his nomination petitions to appear on the ballot in the Democratic primary for Maine's 2nd congressional district. Dunlap, a former Maine Secretary of State and current state auditor, says he is running on a people's agenda that includes Medicare for all, universal child care, living wages, and protecting democracy. According to Dunlap, he is the first on either side of the race to file his signatures.
It expands quite a bit when you start blowing it out to about 1,000 signatures, or statewide for 2,000. So something you want to be on top of, and we were. It's good to be the first one to file in the 2nd CD race. So now we can focus on the next part, which is actually the primary.
The time now is 8:12. Coming up next on Good Morning Maine, advocates with the Cancer Action Network are supporting 2 bills this session that address the need of cancer patients. We'll have more on that ahead.
But first, another look at your local weather forecast. We can expect a partly cloudy day with high temperatures around 46 degrees. Going to melt a lot of snow. Mostly cloudy tonight with lows dropping down to around 20. Mostly cloudy with a chance of flurries tomorrow with highs near 31. We'll be right back.
America's strength is human, but AI is being designed to replace us, threatening our jobs, our families, and our way of life. Tell your elected officials to support common sense regulation. Make sure AI works for us, not instead of us.
Keep your next building project on track when you plan ahead with help from Hammond Lumber Company. Hammond's Home Planning Center specialists offer professional plans with customizable 3D renderings available to bring your project to life. Once your design is finalized and approved, you'll receive a full materials list. And when you buy all your materials from them, Hammond will refund your design fees. Get your building project off to the right start when you bring your vision to Hammond Lumber Company.
We can go into a room and have absolutely nothing in there, nothing on the windows, no color, no character, no tone to a room.
That's, I think, where we're strongest, is being able to help someone envision what's going to go in that window.
And we leave, it's totally transformed into something that the customer wants it to be. We've often been told we make a room look better just by leaving it.
AI is being designed to replace American workers. But in America, work is more than just a paycheck. It's pride and purpose. And when real jobs vanish, families and communities get left behind. We should have a say. Protect what's human.
Every year, communities recognize outstanding service with the Spirit of America Foundation Tribute. Do you know a local person or group that goes above and beyond for others? Nominate them today by contacting a select person, city or town councilor. Help honor those who make a difference where you live. For more information, visit spiritofamerica.website.
The Trump administration is looking to eliminate what scientists say is a key protection for the North Atlantic right whale. The administration wants to revoke a 10-knot speed limit for vessels that pass through areas where the endangered species is present. They argue new technology like satellites and acoustic monitoring will detect the whales and having the speed limit isn't necessary. But experts say that's not the case and claim the technology may help, but it won't mitigate the risk of a boat strike. NOAA estimates that there are about 384 whales left in the ocean.
Republican leadership gathered yesterday at the State House to deliver the news that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has denied the Mills administration's request for more time to investigate claims of fraud within MaineCare. Maine House Minority Leader Billy Bob Falkingham says the remaining records that were supposed to be submitted are now due and audits continue. He says federal officials cited the urgent need to protect taxpayer dollars, preventing delays in oversight and serious concerns about program integrity as reasons the request was denied. Falkingham says those audits have turned up numerous issues, including missing documents and cloned records.
The Office of the Inspector General is concerned because the federal OIG identified $45.6 million in improper payments to autism services. Every sample, as we've said, every sample, 100 out of 100 contained errors.
Falkingham said the problems with the MaineCare system are also going to cause a ripple effect through the state's budget. But so far, Republicans have not seen those concerns addressed.
We still haven't seen nothing of this in any of the budget proposals and any of the supplemental proposals. But the federal government is telling the state of Maine that almost $29 million is due back to the federal government.
Falkingham says MaineCare consumes 25 to 30% of the state's budget.
More than 8,000 Mainers receive a cancer diagnosis each year. That's according to advocates who are urging Maine lawmakers to support proposals that would help address financial barriers to health care. This as the cost of medical care is expected to rise nationwide. Our Grace Blanchard shares more.
Volunteers with the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network are rallying behind two bills this session that aim to address the needs of patients across the cancer continuum.
Patients deserve access and coverage to the things that are going to get them the best possible care at the best possible time.
One of those bills, LD 107, would require health insurance coverage for biomarker testing, a critical tool that helps determine treatments for patients.
It's absolutely life-saving. It is incredibly helpful, not just for cancer, but for other diseases, so it is critical that Mainers have access to this.
The other bill they are pushing for, LD 2129, aims to protect patients from medical debt repercussions for their homes or the garnishing of wages.
It's not a financial literacy failing to get sick. You don't deserve to lose your wages or your home because you have an illness that was unexpected and not covered.
That was a very real fear for volunteer Shauna Ackley after her breast cancer diagnosis in 2021.
I was in my recovery chair looking up resources, grants. I didn't want to lose my house to this. Nobody thinks that they're going to go through cancer, especially at 38, raising a young child.
The biomarker testing bill passed both chambers last session, but its implementation is on hold pending funding allocation. Advocates say the medical debt bill received overwhelming support in committee, but must now face both chambers.
If you are facing these obstacles, battles, down the road, we need to have this safety net for everyone.
In Augusta, Grace Blanchard, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
The time now is 8:19. After the break, more news involving the U.S. military, but for an operation in South America. We'll have the latest on that coming up.
Plus, the price of beef around the nation is nearing a record high. We'll hear from local farmers about the climbing costs as Good Morning Maine continues.
Paramount Paving, Maine's go-to for all your paving and seal coating.
Paramount Paving offers commercial and residential paving and seal coating services throughout eastern and central Maine. Give us a call for a free estimate today. Paramount Paving. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount.
Foggy's Pub, your place for fun, food, and friends in Palmyra, Maine.
Get ready for mowing season, for hauling season, and exploring season. Get ready for tearing it up, cutting it down, and working all around season. Because it's bad boy season, all year long. Bad boy, power, performance, attitude.
Roto-Rooter has served the greater Bangor area and beyond for 35 years, offering plumbing, hydrojetting, snaking, descaling, video inspection, and grease interceptor cleaning services. For all your residential and commercial clogs, call Roto-Rooter today, 990-1234.
And away go troubles down the drain. Roto-Rooter.
Paramount Paving, Maine's go-to for all your paving and seal coating. Paramount Paving offers commercial and residential paving and seal coating services throughout eastern and central Maine. Give us a call for a free estimate today. Paramount Paving. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount.
If you've walked down the meat aisle lately, you may have noticed your steak dinner coming with a bit of sticker shock.
According to the Federal Reserve, beef prices are nearing record highs. Our Alex Schley spoke with local farmers about why costs are climbing and what it means here in Maine.
The price of beef across the nation is nearing a record high, driven in part by a shrinking cattle herd.
If there's not enough to meet the demand, the price is going to go up.
According to the Federal Reserve, at the beginning of the year, the cost for a pound of ground beef was nearly $7, more than $1 higher than the same time last year.
The price started to climb, and it just skyrocketed.
Adam Asbury, owner of Windy Ridge Farm in Troy, says when supplies get tight, everyone feels a squeeze, from the pasture to the produce aisle.
Now the dairy bull calf that was $50 to $100 is now pushing $800 to $1,000.
Here in Maine, the trouble is double, as farmers are still feeling the ripple effect of last summer's drought.
I mean, I know a lot of farmers that, whether they were beef or dairy, that got hit really hard by not having the proper amount of corn. I mean, there's a lot of people that got cut thousands of tons short.
Asbury says many farmers were forced to buy additional feed, driving the cost for farmers even higher.
The cost of putting up feed during the summertime, just like for hay, you have the twine or the net wrap, and that increases the costs if that goes up.
With 4 decades in the cattle business, Asbury says this is a familiar trend in the market.
It just makes a huge cycle, and eventually this cycle will crash and it'll go back down again.
Until then, Asbury says consumers will likely continue to pay the price. In Troy, Alex Schley for ABC7 and Fox 22 News.
Boy, it is going up. I've talked to some friends. They're going in with each other and buying a cow. They do this at farms
really
where you can actually get like a half a cow or something like that. Fill your freezer, and it's a lot cheaper to do it that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, the time now is 8:23. Let's get a full look at our forecast with meteorologist Stevin Biggs.
Alrighty, Craig and Janessa, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Stone Artisans. For fast, beautiful countertops, trust Stone Artisans, your main stone supplier. 2493040. Wave height's very quiet out there near land at around 2 to 3 feet. Further off towards the north and east, not too bad either. It is active further out towards sea at around 8 feet overall. Not too bad further off towards the north, but we have no advisories on land or even near the shoreline at this moment in time. We did have some snow recently near Bangor and further off towards the south and west, just near 1.5 inches for the Bangor area. Further off towards the south and west, at least so far, 3.5 inches being reported. As we zoom things out, there's all the snow so far that has tracked off towards the east, and now the snow has since wrapped up. So overall, we'll have decreasing clouds today to reveal a good amount of sunshine. So overall, a nice day to get outside. Temperatures will be rising as well. So futurecast showing the clouds breaking up. You may still see some clouds at times throughout the day, so we'll call it a partly cloudy sky. Little front tracking from north to south as we head throughout your Thursday. You may see a few flurries with that, but nothing too ridiculous. As we head towards Thursday afternoon and a Thursday night, those clouds will be breaking up, but overall, nothing too crazy. There's another system to the south and west that will not give us any problems. You may notice some gusty winds at times today, up close to 20 miles per hour. Again, not a huge deal. The sustained winds will be lower, and even as we head towards tonight, maybe a few gusts up to 25 miles per hour. Again, not long lasting, and even as we head towards your Thursday, again, not a huge deal. Mid-40s today, partly cloudy, with that west wind getting up to about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Higher gusts are possible. By tonight, lower 20s, mostly cloudy. In general, the wind will be calm, but early on, you may still see some wind with some higher gusts, but in general, the winds will be calming down. For tomorrow, lower 30s, mostly cloudy, some flurries. Northeast wind at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Some higher gusts cannot be ruled out. Let's check out your extended forecast brought to you by Stone Artisans. And for your Friday, will be mostly cloudy with highs in the low 30s. A wintry mix switching over to rain for your Saturday. Highs in the upper 40s. The time change on Sunday, 2 a.m. skips ahead to 3 a.m. Some morning rain chances. Highs in the low 50s.
Rebound and recover with the Planet Fitness Black Card. Join now and unlock recovery amenities like Red Light. Incredible!
Get the PF Black Card for $1 down, $24.99 a month, and get your first month free. No commitment. Deal ends March 13th.
A sharp pain in his chest. He knew it was his heart, but 2 hours from the big city hospital could tragically mean the end. But it wasn't. Thanks to Senator Susan Collins' tireless fight for Maine's rural hospitals. Because of Senator Collins' work, his local hospital had recently received up-to-date diagnostic equipment and upgraded facilities, all paid for with new federal funding. Lives are being saved. Call and thank our Senator Susan Collins for delivering this lifeline for Maine.
You're never gonna believe who called the Cabin Masters.
Who called us?
Joe Bornstein's office. They have a small project for us.
How small?
Pretty small. It is on the lake.
Got $1 million views.
Well then, let's show them we mean business.
Did you know that Joe Bornstein has helped over 25,000 Maine families?
In all 16 counties?
Yep.
They're wicked good lawyers.
Fighting and winning for injured Mainers for over 50 years.
Good job, guys.
Nice. Injured Mainers know to call Joe.
It's all fun, all hybrid, and all-wheel drive. The all-wheel drive Toyota Camry Hybrid, a well-appointed, stylish hybrid that's all about comfort and all about exceptional driving range. And with special 3.99% financing for 72 months, all about great value. The all-fun, all-wheel drive Camry Hybrid, an all-around great choice. See your New England Toyota dealer, your hybrid all-wheel drive headquarters. Toyota, let's go places.
Rebound and recover with the Planet Fitness Black Card. Join now and unlock recovery amenities like Red Light. Incredible!
Get the PF Black Card for $1 down, $24.99 a month, and get your first month free. No commitment. Deal ends March 13th.
Americans are now trying to evacuate the Middle East as missile and drone strikes disrupt air travel. The Trump administration, 5 days into this conflict, now scrambling for help. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio with more.
This morning, with the war against Iran raging, as many as 1,500 Americans are believed to be in the Middle East looking for a way out.
It's a lot of different things here that need to happen in order to move people.
After urging Americans to evacuate despite major disruptions to air travel across the region, the State Department now says it is actively securing military aircraft and charter flights for American citizens.
I'm not feeling super confident about this flight taking off. The airport's pretty empty.
American Alyssa Ramos managed to make her way from Kuwait City to the airport in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Oh my God, I'm so happy. I've never been happier to be in Egypt.
She was eventually able to fly to Egypt and is now helping others find transportation out of the region.
We have a lot of options for land transfers.
For those Americans still stranded, Secretary of State Rubio has encouraged them to call the State Department's hotline. But when reached yesterday, this was the recorded message.
Please do not rely on the U.S. government for assisted departure or evacuation at this time. There are currently no United States evacuation points.
In the meantime, different narratives have emerged over why the U.S. chose now to attack Iran. Secretary Rubio on Monday suggested an imminent strike by Israel played a role. But yesterday, President Trump appeared to contradict that claim.
Mr. President, did Israel force your hand to launch these strikes against Iran? Did Netanyahu pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand.
Trump offering a new explanation, saying Iran was set to attack. But after emerging from a classified briefing, Democrats claimed there was no evidence justifying an attack.
The point is there was no imminent threat. There clearly was no imminent threat.
And Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says Iran was trying to restart its nuclear program, and that played a major role in Trump's decision to strike. Nicole D'Antonio, ABC News, Washington.
Well, another big story this morning, confusion in the Lone Star State. A high-stakes primary race there with nationwide implications, and the voting was anything but smooth. Here's ABC's Sophie Flay with that story.
Chaos at the polls across Texas in a primary that could help determine control of the U.S. Senate. Hundreds of voters were turned away at polling stations because of a new rule requiring them to cast ballots at their assigned precinct. Confusion and long lines prompted a judge to extend polling hours. But Attorney General Ken Paxton, who's running in the Republican Senate primary, got the Texas Supreme Court to overturn that order and separate any votes cast after 7 p.m. Paxton will now face incumbent and longtime Senator John Cornyn in a runoff election in May because neither candidate got more than 50% of the vote. Some Republican leaders claim a victory by Paxton, a MAGA supporter who's faced multiple scandals, could make the seat vulnerable to a Democratic win in November.
I refuse to allow a flawed, self-centered, and shameless candidate like Ken Paxton risk everything we've worked so hard to build over these many years.
Cornyn and his supporters reportedly spent a record $71 million on advertising.
After all the personal attacks, which there were many, and after all the lies, you listened to what John Cornyn was selling, and you weren't buying it.
As for the Democrats, state lawmaker James Tallarico won the primary, defeating Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett.
Among the race results that we do have, Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw lost in a major upset to Steve Toth, a staunch conservative. Sophie Flay, ABC News, New York.
More news overnight concerning U.S. military action, not in the Middle East, but in South America. ABC's Hannah Battah has the latest.
This morning, ABC News learning the U.S. military has helped launch a new ground operation against drug cartels in Latin America. Troops and helicopters from Ecuador seen here taking part in the mission. It's the first time the U.S. military has engaged in a land operation against South American drug cartels.
It appears that in this case, they were not a part of the actual combat mission, if there was any combat, but it really is more like just being close by, within radio range, where they could provide any support in terms of advice of how to carry out the mission or for whatever scenario comes around.
Until now, the U.S. had only targeted cartels on water, striking alleged smuggling boats. Ecuador in recent years has become a major focus of the drug war. ABC's Matt Rivers visited the country in 2024.
It might not look like it, but this river is a superhighway for cocaine. Hundreds of tons of that product coming through these waters every single year, bound for Europe and the United States. And as a result, that city right there, Guayaquil, Ecuador, is at war. Rival drug gangs fighting between themselves and the government, vying for supremacy in what has become one of the most important hubs in the global cocaine trade.
U.S. officials saying the new joint military operation is aimed at fighting the scourge of narco-terrorism. Hannah Battah, ABC News, New York.
Coming up on the second half of the newscast, the Piscataquis Area Community Center is looking for generous donors to help keep their pool open.
We'll tell you how you can help with that project coming up on Good Morning Maine.
Bob's is bringing the wow back. You can wait for a sale price, or you can get wow-worthy prices every day at Bob's. Like this Play-Day sectional for just $7.99, delivered in days. Or this real marble dining set in 2 finishes. And with our everyday low prices plus flexible financing options, your tax refund goes further at Bob's.
And with tons of styles ready to ship and old furniture removal, you can get your furniture fast and easy.
Wow!
Oh, my Bob.
Whether you're a first-time do-it-yourselfer or you're third generation, Rock Auto has all the parts your car will ever need.
All the parts your car will ever need, Rock Auto.
You know Matt pretty well. Did he give you any advice?
He said that I should use 26 words or more.
25 words or less.
Wed, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
You just won it!
Weekdays at 9 on Fox 22. You're watching Fox 22, Bangor.
Welcome back, everyone. Today is Wednesday, March 4th, 2026, and this is also World Obesity Day.
Obesity is considered an epidemic in the United States. It's a condition that puts people at higher risk for serious diseases, including cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. This is a day to learn about the factors that lead to obesity and to learn what we can all do to end the stigma.
Especially important here in Maine, we tend to have a little higher obesity rate for both adults and children. So it's a good time to talk about it and maybe take some steps. The good news is spring is here, so we'll all get more active.
Yeah, we'll all get moving again.
And we're going to have great beach bodies right in time for summer. So, yeah. All right, time for history. It was on this day in history. Back in 1789, the U.S. Constitution took effect as the first federal Congress met in New York. In 1865, on this date, President Abraham Lincoln was inaugurated for a second time. It came as the Civil War was ending and just 6 weeks before his assassination. What an incredible photo there, too.
I know. So cool.
And in 1922, the silent horror movie Nosferatu was released in Berlin, making it the first ever vampire movie. And as far as I'm concerned, he's the scariest vampire of all.
Agreed.
Have you seen him before?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to think about it.
And in 1974, People magazine was launched and continues to be one of the nation's best-selling weeklies. And in 1987, President Ronald Reagan addressed the nation concerning the Iran-Contra affair. He acknowledged that his overtures to Iran had deteriorated into the arms for hostages deal. And in 1998, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that workplace sexual harassment laws still apply when the offender and victim are of the same sex.
All right, for birthdays today, they include actress Jessica Biel, who is 44 today, model Brooklyn Beckham is 27, and actress Patricia Heaton is 68 years old today. Happy birthday to you also if your birthday is today. I'm going to become a model. That's what I'm going to do in my next career.
I think that would be a great choice.
Can model or something like that. Yeah.
We'll turn things over to meteorologist Devin Biggs.
And thank you very much, Craig and Janessa. Happy Wednesday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Stone Artisans. For fast, beautiful countertops, trust Stone Artisans, your main stone supplier, 2493040. Alrighty, here we go. Some snow reports in this morning from Bangor and farther off towards the south and west. Not a whole lot near the Bangor area, just 1.5 inches so far, while further off towards the south and west, around 3.5 inches, at least so far that we've received. But meanwhile, as we do zoom things out, there's all the snow that we've gotten, and now it has since wrapped up. So overall for today, we'll get the clouds out of here with a good amount of sunshine. Meanwhile, the rest of the Northeast is looking rather good. So overall, we will be looking nice as we do move forward, and the clouds will be breaking up today with a lot of sunshine. You may still see some clouds at times. We do have a weak cold front that will be passing passing through for your Thursday with a slight chance for snow, and that's about it there for your Thursday. Some gusty winds at times up to around 15, maybe 20 miles per hour, but in general, the wind will not be much of a problem moving forward. The hourly forecast, okay, some clouds out there today with temperatures warming up into the 40s. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig and Janessa.
Thank you, Devin. Now for the latest on what's happening in Hollywood.
Here's ABC's Melissa Adon.
Well, it's been too long since we've seen each other.
Ringo Starr is coming out with a new album titled Long, Long Road. It's the 85-year-old former Beatles' second album with T-Bone Burnett. It's set for release on April 24th and will feature guest appearances by the likes of Sheryl Crow and St. Vincent, among others.
Power is a curious thing.
Game of Thrones is getting a big screen adaptation. A movie set in the world of Westeros is now in the works at Warner Brothers. No word yet on what the story is about or when the movie could come out.
There's a snake!
After making more than $1 billion in theaters, Zootopia 2 is now headed to streaming. The animated family film hits Disney Plus on March 11th. Disney is the parent company of ABC News. And happy birthday to Everybody Loves Raymond star Patricia Heaton. She turned 67 today. And that's what's happening in Hollywood. Melissa Adon, ABC News.
Still to come here this morning, Jack Webb with sports.
Don't go away.
Find your perfect getaway game plan at Quirk Hyundai in Bangor. Kona handles with precision on the road. Lease for only $296 per month. Or go for the shutout on interest with 0% financing on Tucson. It's your Hyundai. Find it at Quirk.
A sharp pain in his chest. He knew it was his heart. But 2 hours from the big city hospital could tragically mean the end. But it wasn't. Thanks to Senator Susan Collins' tireless fight for Maine's rural hospitals. Because of Senator Collins' work, his local hospital had recently received up-to-date diagnostic equipment and upgraded facilities, all paid for with new federal funding. Lives are being saved. Call and thank our Senator Susan Collins for delivering this lifeline for Maine.
There are so many fun things to do in Maine. Now you can enjoy more for less. Check out half-off deals from foxbangor.com.
Discover the charm of Warren's Waterfront Restaurant, Bucksport's only waterfront dining. Relax in a cozy atmosphere where every visit feels like home. Indulge in fresh, flavorful dishes paired with stunning river views. Join us at Warren's Waterfront, your perfect escape.
There's a limited supply available. It's on sale right now. Save with half-off deals from foxbangor.com.
At the County Federal Credit Union, we value the trust our members place in us to act in their best interest. Whether it's providing low rates on consumer loans or raising money to end hunger, we work hard to serve our members and the communities in which they live. We are excited to bring the meaningful and impactful work we do to all Mainers as we continue to grow. Wherever you are in life's journey, count on the county to be your financial partner.
Score big during Truck Month at Quirk Ram. Ram Bighorn is a winter powerhouse, leased for $439 a month. Or get elite performance with Jeep Grand Cherokee, leased for $379 a month. It's your Ram, it's your Jeep. Find it at Quirk in Bangor and Belfast.
Your goal is to put items in the correct order before, in between, definitely after.
This is The Perfect Line. Weekdays at 10 on Fox 22.
Folks, we'll start in Orono, where the Maine men's basketball team wrapped up the regular season on Tuesday night. The Black Bears hosted the UMass Lowell Riverhawks with playoff seeding on the line. We pick it up in the first, where Lowell takes control early. Angel Montas Jr. drives and floats it in as Lowell takes a 16-9 lead. Other end, it's Logan Carey trying to get the Black Bears back in it. He gets the three to fall through the contact. He goes to the line for the 4-point play. Maine trails by 3. Maine again. This time it's Ace Flagg, ever heard of him, with the triple, but the Riverhawks lead 35-26 at the break. Second half now, it's more of the same. Montas Jr. dishes to Victor Okoji, who gets the bucket and the foul to build on Lowell's lead. Maine looking to make a late push. Flagg dishes it to Caleb Crawford, then sets him a screen, which frees Crawford up to splash the 3, but the Riverhawks would just be too much in this one as Okoji grabs the offensive board and puts it back up for another and one as Lowell wins 67-56. 56. Maine is the 6th seed in the tournament. They go to NJIT on Saturday. Staying in Orono, the Maine women's basketball team is playoff bound and will kick things off Thursday as they host rival UNH. Our Max Sturm caught up with the Black Bears to talk about the matchup.
You know what the urgency is with that game.
Momentum is one of the driving forces behind any great playoff run. And the Maine women's basketball team certainly has it on their side as they enter the America East tournament as the conference's number 2 seed. The Black Bears earned that spot with 2 big wins last week versus Albany and Binghamton. And with the regular season winding down, the players understood what was at stake.
It's just about finishing on a high note. Like, we knew what the stakes were, but we also knew, like, it's a basketball game. We have to get ready for playoffs, really polish up a bunch of things, and we were able to do that. And to me, I felt like Saturday was kind of like a championship, like playoff vibe.
Obviously, we know we have later games in the week, but we got to focus on what's right in front of us and just take it one play at a time, one game at a time.
Locking up the 2 seed ensures the Black Bears a home playoff game in the opening round, an advantage they know is huge for the team in an elimination game.
It just makes a big difference, and I think we've had our last 3 games have been great games, really competitive, high intensity, and I think really we were able to pull them all off because they were at home and we were able to have that atmosphere.
It doesn't go unnoticed, the people in the crowd. It's a great feeling to have them support you. Having them here, it helps us defensively and gets us going.
That crowd will surely be rowdy in Orono on Thursday when the Black Bears take on perennial rival UNH in the first round. After 2 matchups with the Wildcats this season, Maine knows what it'll take to get the job done.
They've been playing really well, their team. I mean, when they played here, they had a lot of other kids step up and hit shots. So we're going to have to, while we have to lock in on her, play a total team defensive game.
As long as we show up and do what we need to do, we'll be okay. But, you know, we got to focus on what we can control.
They have a lot of great scores and great action, but this is our 3rd time playing them. You know, we know what they look like, they know what we look like. I think it just, in the playoffs, it comes down to who wants it more.
Maine will tip off on Thursday at 6 p.m. In Orono, Max Sturm, ABC 7 and Fox 22 Sports.
Thank you for that, Max. Going down to New York now, where the University of Maine Augusta basketball team pulled off a miracle against Andrews University in the USCAA D2 play-in. They were down 24 points with 17 minutes remaining, looking like their season was going to end until this happened.
Makes his first. That's a big make. Ball is rolled. 5 seconds left in the game. Matthews out for Sharp. Season on the line. Drills it! Dante Sharp!
They will next play in the quarterfinal round on Wednesday at 8:15 at Villa Marie College in New York against Cincinnati Claremont. That's all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
Purple Coat Bangor is open and ready for business. Jump into the best products, pricing, and customer service in town. Join a growing community with monthly events, art and music nights, daily specials, and plenty of good vibes. Located at 431 Audlin Road, right off of 395. Stop by and check us out today.
I had a slip and fall accident. I wasn't sure what to do. Joe Bornstein's office handled everything. The experience was much better than what I expected. They were very professional and responsive to all my questions and concerns. I highly recommend the law offices of Joe Bornstein. Over 25,000 victories for injured Mainers just like me. If you've been injured in an accident, call Joe. It's that easy. Tell him you mean business.
Call Joe today for a free case evaluation. There's never a fee unless you win.
It's mowing season. And Bad Boy Mowers has the best lineup in the game. Built to win with more power, advanced engineering, and performance that never quits. Whether you're playing on this field or this field. So this mowing season, raise your game and join the team. Bad Boy, mow with an attitude.
Looking for a welcoming place where quality and care meet? Come to the Cheese House in Fairfield, your local shop for premium herbs, wellness products, and friendly guidance. Whether you're curious or experienced, our knowledgeable team takes the time to help you find exactly what works for you, with respect and no judgment. Visit us today at 5 Pike Drive, the Cheese House. Quality, community, care. We're here for you.
Purple Coat Bangor is open and ready for business. Jump into the best products, pricing, and customer service in town. Join a growing community with monthly events, art and music nights, daily specials, and plenty of good vibes. Located at 431 Audlin Road, right off of 395. Stop by and check us out today.
Welcome back, everyone. Travelers now may be banned for not wearing headphones the next time they fly, according to one of airlines' new policies. United Airlines made a change to its contract of carriage on Friday. The airline says it now has the right to, quote, refuse transport to any passenger who fails to use headphones while listening to audio or video content on its aircrafts. Passengers who do not comply could be removed from their flight or permanently banned from the airline. The new policy also says any traveler who causes United any, quote, loss, damage, or expense for failing to use headphones is responsible for reimbursement. But if you do forget to pack a pair, the airline says it does offer free basic wired headsets. United is the first major U.S. airline to implement a legal policy regarding headphone use on airplanes.
They just don't want to distract from other
Right, makes
passengers.
sense, yeah.
All right, well, the Piscataquis Area Community Center is looking for 365 generous people to donate $100 a day to keep the area's pool open.
Our Jody Hersey explains.
This former YMCA in Dover-Foxcroft shut down abruptly in 2024. When it reopened in 2025 as the Piscataquis Area Community Center, or PAC, it had a new look and a new goal to keep the building open as often as possible. In order to do so, the nonprofit has been raising funds and accepting help from volunteers to ensure the facility, with its weight room, fitness classes, and pool, is in tip-top shape.
So this year's been very, very expensive, but we've made all the changes that hopefully for the longevity of the building are really going to keep operating expenses down.
One of the biggest expenses and the last area of the facility to reopen has been the pool. It was sandblasted down to the concrete and repainted before it was finally able to welcome members back into the water just weeks ago.
Being the only pool in Piscataquis County, I think the community really understands that this is important to a lot of people.
Now the PAC has created a fundraiser to cover this much-loved amenity.
So we're doing 365 donations, $100 each. That's roughly what it costs to operate the pool per day, just for heat and electricity. So far we have 73 donations, but they're spaced out throughout the year. So we've got like the first 8 days of March completely covered, and then so still looking to take some more donations to fill those gaps.
Guilford artist and swimmer Tracy Padron has been donating her time and talents to help make the PAC welcoming to all that come through the doors.
I want them to come in and love this place and talk about this place and go, have you seen that yet? Have you been there? What was here was good, but I think this is so much better.
In Dover-Foxcroft, I'm Jody Hersey for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Those interested in making a donation to the 365 Make a Ripple fundraiser can find the link in the story on our website at foxbangor.com. Now here's meteorologist Evan Biggs with our full weather forecast.
Alrighty, Craig and Janessa, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Stone Artisans. For fast, beautiful countertops, trust Stone Artisans, your main stone supplier. 2493040. Wave height's very quiet out there near land at around 2 to 3 feet. Further off towards the north and east, not too bad either. It is active further out towards sea at around 8 feet overall. Not too bad further off towards the north, but we have no advisories on land or even near the shoreline at this moment in time. We did have some snow recently near Bangor and further off towards the south and west, just near 1.5 inches for the Bangor area. Further off towards the south and west, at least so far, 3.5 inches being reported. As we zoom things out, there's all the snow so far that has tracked off towards the east, and now the snow has since wrapped up. So overall, we'll have decreasing cloud clouds today to reveal a good amount of sunshine. So overall, a nice day to get outside. Temperatures will be rising as well. So futurecast showing the clouds breaking up. You may still see some clouds at times throughout the day, so we'll call it a partly cloudy sky. Little front tracking from north to south as we head throughout your Thursday. You may see a few flurries with that, but nothing too ridiculous. As we head towards Thursday afternoon and a Thursday night, those clouds will be breaking up, but overall, nothing too crazy. There's another system to the south and west that will not give us any problems. You may notice some gusty winds at times today, up close to 20 miles per hour. Again, not a huge deal. The sustained winds will be lower, and even as we head towards tonight, maybe a few gusts up to 25 miles per hour. Again, not long lasting, and even as we head towards your Thursday, again, not a huge deal. Mid-40s today, partly cloudy, with that west wind getting up to about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Higher gusts are possible. By tonight, lower 20s, mostly cloudy. In general, the wind will be calm, but early on, you may still see some wind with some higher gusts, but in general, the winds will be calming down. For tomorrow, lower 30s, mostly cloudy, some flurries. Northeast wind at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Some higher gusts cannot be ruled out. Let's check out your extended forecast brought to you by Stone Artisans. And for your Friday, will be mostly cloudy with highs in the low 30s. A wintry mix switching over to rain for your Saturday. Highs in the upper 40s. The time change on Sunday, 2 a.m. skips ahead to 3 a.m. Some morning rain chances. Highs in the low 50s.
Want to save $1,000? Switch to Spectrum and we guarantee you will. Seriously, you can hold us to it. Switch to Spectrum fiber-powered internet and 2 mobile lines for just $30 a month each. That's $1,000 in real savings in your first year, guaranteed. Or we'll cover the difference. We call it the Spectrum Savings Guarantee. So call this number now, switch, and save $1,000 on internet and mobile. It's a guaranteed no-brainer.
Rowell's Garage has been serving customers in the greater Dover-Foxcroft region since 1946. Our goal is not just selling you a vehicle, but also giving you quality service to maintain your vehicle at peak performance. Browse our inventory online or in person. Whether it's a car, truck, or SUV, we can put you in the vehicle that is right for you. Sales, service, and parts. Rowell's Garage, doing business the right way every day.
I worry, will the next generation of Americans grow up with the friends and mentors and teachers and coaches who shaped us? Will they value their creativity now that anything can be imagined by an app? Will they learn to think for themselves and find work to support their family? I worry that AI is being designed to replace us and used in ways it never should be. That's why we should have a say in the future of AI.
When Maine winter bites, nothing matters more than keeping your family warm. The solution is simple, a high-efficiency heat pump installed by Valley Home Services. It's the quiet, reliable warmth you need all season long. At Valley Home, we're your elite Fujitsu dealer, ensuring expert installation that delivers consistent comfort and maximizes your energy savings. And we make it easy to switch to efficiency heating and qualify for those valuable Efficiency Maine rebates. Stay perfectly warm without the high cost. For a warm, worry-free winter, trust the local experts. Valley Home Services. Winter warmth is waiting. Call us today.
Cat food sold in multiple states is being recalled for low levels of thymine. The Food and Drug Administration reported last Thursday that it was expanding a previous recall of frozen Quest cat food chicken recipe products due to low thymine levels. The FDA says thymine is essential for cats in their diets, and their vitamins could cause a deficiency. Early signs of a deficiency in an affected cat could include decreased appetite, salivation, vomiting, and weight loss. The recalled products have best buy dates of May 17, 2027, June 16, 2027, and October 15 of 2027. The affected food was sold in more than 20 states, including New York, Texas, and Florida. Consumers are urged to return the food to the place of purchase for a full refund there.
A total lunar eclipse turned the moon blood red this week. The blood red moon was visible over the skies of North and Central America and the western part of South America on early Tuesday morning. Later, those in Australia and Eastern Asia were able to see the blood red moon. The phenomenon won't happen again until late 2028. Both lunar and solar eclipses happen thanks to a precise alignment of the sun, moon, and Earth. In a total lunar eclipse, the Earth is between the sun and moon, casting a shadow over the moon. And the moon looks red because of stray bits of sunlight that filters through the Earth's atmosphere. It almost looks a little eerie.
It does. Looks pink.
Tuesday's total eclipse of the moon comes about 2 weeks after the Ring of Fire solar eclipse, which was visible over Antarctica.
How cool is that?
Pretty, though.
It is. A new and endangered Sumatran, how do you say that?
Sumatran
tiger cub passes its first ever vet exam. The young and playful female cub was born in January at the Berlin Zoo. It is spending quality time roaring and exploring its enclosure with its mother. And on Tuesday, the cub had a health visit that included vaccinations. A tiger jury will select a name for the cub. The tiger is native to the Indonesian island of Sumatra and is one of the smallest subspecies of the tiger still in existence. Only about 400 to 600 Sumatran tigers are left in their natural habitat.
So beautiful, too.
So cute.
I met a couple of tigers that age once, and
Really?
you want to pick them up and cuddle them like,
Right.
like a little kitty,
Yeah.
but they are still wild animals,
You
and even
can't
at
do
that
that.
age, they've got claws, let me tell you.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time that we have left for this morning, but as always, we thank you for joining us.
Have a great day, everyone.
Today on 25.